We're going to just start off and say, firstly, thank you, Nadine. So very grateful to you for being here. Obviously, we were lucky enough to have you here in Venice last year, but this year we are contactless but connected. So to start us off, I would love to hear your thoughts. It's something you've done through your work, which is allow cinema and great film to let us see things that we ordinarily wouldn't see. So how do you feel about great film being an agent for social change?
I've always believed in the power of, this tool. I've always believed in, because cinema and art in general actually tackles your emotional cord, as a human being. So whatever story you're going to tell, or whatever subject you're going to shed the light on, has a completely different, I think, impact on the individuals who are going to receive it when it comes either from a work of art, or from a song, or from a painting, or from cinema, from a movie you're watching, because it actually humanizes a problem. It puts a face, or it tackles your emotional cord, and then you start identifying, let's say, with the story or with the person that you are watching on this big screen. You start almost sharing the same emotions, or the same reactions, and you start identifying with a certain problem or with a certain situation. So I think it does have a great impact on you as a human being. So when you start understanding the impact it can have, it becomes a responsibility, because you start wanting to use this tool responsibly, and you start understanding how much power anything that you're going to be presenting, how much power it can have on the community you live in, or the society you live in, or the world you live in, especially when it tackles social issues or political issues. So you start understanding the mission it can have, and the responsibility that you have as an artist to not just tell a story, but to also maybe try to engage in a debate, or initiate a debate, or initiate some kind of discussion, or at least change perspectives sometimes. So I truly believe in that. I mean, I don't know if it doesn't mean that every film should have this kind of social involvement, but it is, I think, very important to understand this power and to know how to deal with it.
And that must be, for as a director, as the ultimate storyteller, I guess for me the piece that's interesting is how much you focus on the story that you're telling, and how much that the reaction for your audience is not something you can control. Do you try and control your audience through the story, or just tell the story?
No, I mean, when you're thinking about a story, or when you're writing a certain situation, because I also write my own films, I co-write my own films. So I don't think of it this way. I think I am, in a way, the reference is my own emotions as a human being. I just, whatever moves me, or whatever obsesses me at that moment in time, usually is universal, because we all feel the same. So I think I listen to my instinct, I listen to my reactions, even sometimes physically. Sometimes you have a physical reaction when you're writing a certain scene, or when you're imagining a certain situation. Your body reacts. You have your heart starts pumping very quickly. You have goosebumps. You smile, or you have tears. You you either feel very emotional, very sad, or very happy. I mean, your even your body physically has a certain reaction, so you have to listen to that, and I usually listen to that. So when I'm imagining that a kind of situation, or I'm writing a certain scene, I listen to how I am reacting as a human being, and usually this is my reference. It doesn't mean that I'm the only reference. Of course, we are very different. We have so different human natures, but usually to certain situation, it's a good sign. And I do that often.
And as the sort of the writer, the director, the creator, the person who uncovers these stories that have not been told before, how much does does the narrative evolve as you're actually going through the creative process? Do you write then shoot, or do you start to shoot and then realize that some of it needs rewriting or changing? How does it work?
I mean, any work that I've done until now, any film that I've worked on until now, has been rewritten so many times during the process. It's usually it's a very organic process, and it's of course the first writing phase is when you're writing the script, and this also happens in parallel with the research process, because it's very important, especially with the latest film. I did like over 3 years of research while I was writing. So we used to research and then come or go places, talk to people, talk to children, go to detention centers and prisons, and those very difficult neighborhoods in Lebanon, and then we would come back and write according to what we saw, and things that were very much based on what we saw. So this is usually the first writing phase. And then there's a second writing phase, a rewriting phase, when you are actually shooting the film, when you start improvising also with the actors, and I like to do this a lot. Like I told you, it's an organic process, so I don't usually follow the script. The script is like a base for me, and it's a very solid base. But then, scene by scene, I start maybe developing it more during the shoot, or taking it places that I'm not supposed to go to, because I like that. I like whatever life is giving me at that moment. I like to capture it, and I like to work with it. And it's like you're molding it around along the way. And then there's and I collaborate a lot with the actors also. I like them to be very inspired also from their own experience, with their own experience in the film. And then the third writing phase is when you're editing, and then you rewrite everything again, and you start shuffling and changing, and sometimes the film doesn't end up at all the way it was written. But of course, there's always this very solid base, where you start from, where you're going and where you want to land. But in the meantime, you can really shuffle it and keep developing it. But you have to really know your material. It's a very interesting process, and I like to do it this way.
And one of the things that we're exploring with these conversations is the difference between the director or the actor's vision of the story that they're telling and the messages that an audience receive. As you know, when you've watched a great film, you could have a favorite scene that would be totally different to my favorite scene. What's the feedback loop, if you will, for how you sort of understand which parts of your art that you've created resonate best with audiences, or even are the most memorable to you?
I mean, usually it depends on the film, it depends on but every film or every adventure has a different reward, for me. I'm gonna talk more about my latest film, Capernaum, because I think it had the most impact on my life and other people's lives and the actors' lives. And it was not just a film for me; it was a film that it was a journey. It was a human, journey that taught me a lot and that changed me also as a human being a lot, uh, and that um, and that was very also, there was a very thin line between fiction and reality. So sometimes, even when we were shooting, sometimes reality and fiction were mixed up, and sometimes we were, this is not a fiction anymore, this is, we're actually capturing real life. And then when you do that and the film has an impact on other people and people feel it, they feel this truth, they feel this reality. So when you start showing the film and people start reacting to it, they're not reacting to just um, another fiction piece that is a um, a fruit of your imagination. It becomes a reality and people start reacting with it as if it was a reality, because it's based on so much reality, and sometimes it's even very real in certain situations where there's no fiction at all. So people sense it and feel it, and it has a completely different impact on the people that receive that film. And it actually initiates, action. It initiates a change of perspective, a change of um, it initiates debates, like I told you, and people start, reacting to it in their real life. They start taking action in their real life, whether it's towards children or towards um, uh, understanding what these communities go through and wanting to do something about it, wanting to change the situation. So in that way, I mean, this is the best reward for me, because that was the intention when I made this film. Especially, the intention was to make a small change, and also when I see that, Zane's life has changed. Now he's in Norway. He is going to school. He's with his family, and everybody's going to school. It's a completely different life. It's like 180-degree change. He was going this way, now he's going a completely different way. So it's also another amazing reward.
And I think, I mean, it's an absolutely beautiful tool that through great cinema, great storytelling, we do have the opportunity to not just change opinions, but change actions. 2020 obviously has been an extraordinary year for probably all the wrong reasons. We spoke that sadly you and I can't be in the same room this year. If you feel comfortable, tell us where you are and tell us how 2020 has been for you so far.
Well, actually, 2020 has been a very difficult year, obviously, for everyone. Um, I feel there's a certain shift um, in everything. There's a certain shift in energy, there's a certain shift in consciousness. But we have to pay a very high price for this change to happen, for this shift to happen. It's as if it was a deadline for all humanity. It's like nature is telling us, you have to change your ways. The system is not working anymore. The way you've imagined your lives or you've been living your lives is not, I truly believe in that. I truly believe that we need to make a change. Unfortunately, in Lebanon, it's been very, very difficult. We've been going through the biggest economic collapse in our history here in Lebanon. We went through the pandemic. We have a revolution going on, and unfortunately, exactly a month ago, on the 4th of August, we had the biggest non-nuclear explosion in history. It's the third, apparently, after Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So Lebanon and Beirut is completely devastated. There isn't one home, one building, one apartment in Beirut that hasn't been completely destroyed. There hasn't been one family that was not directly or indirectly impacted by such a trauma. And it's been very difficult. And all of that, unfortunately, is a man-made disaster. This is what's the most, I think, frustrating and unfair thing that is happening is this was a man-made disaster. It was not like a natural disaster happening, and it was the result of years of negligence of the Lebanese government. So it's been a very difficult year, and we need to, of course, Lebanon and Lebanese people have been going through so much during the last 45 years. So we are tired. We are really tired of, speculations and conspiracy theories, not knowing whether this was an attack or whether this was just, pure negligence of our corrupt, and stupid and inefficient government. So, and we need help. We need the international community's pressure. We need people to keep talking about Lebanon, to keep talking about what happened in Beirut, because we need to know the truth. We need to have an international investigation so we understand what really happened in Beirut. So it doesn't just, because, like I told you, for once, we need to understand what happened, and we need to understand who's been trying to, kill us that much for those 45 past years. And we need, of course, help with donations because we need to rebuild our, the whole city. So that's the situation here in Lebanon. It's been 2020 has been one of the most difficult years. I hope it's gonna create some kind of change. Maybe sometimes you have to go through the worst to start, start the journey uphill. I don't know. Let's see.
And very often, I think we've talked a lot historically about how everyone has the opportunity to be a filmmaker now. The devices that we carry in our pockets give the opportunity to show a window to the world on the realities that different people live in. How much are you encouraging young people to record, document, share, tell the stories that they're encountering?
Of course, it's so important, and it's so empowering also to know that you can actually be a part of telling a story or telling the truth or documenting or archiving a certain moment in time or a certain moment in history, and being able to capture it and being able to express yourself and your views through it. But we have to, of course, we have to use it responsibly. Social media is good, but it also sometimes is very destructive. And we have to, you have to use it very responsibly. In whatever you do, an opinion or, just capturing a moment and putting it out there is a very responsible act. It should be a responsible act. So, of course, I encourage people to do it as much as they can, but to do it really responsibly, because sometimes it can destroy lives without even knowing, it can have a very, very negative impact on other people's lives. So it's very important to use it responsibly.
And I'm sure, like everyone, we hope that after periods of intense hardship, there will be opportunity. There is hope. We've seen through history that after, whether it be pandemics or times of deep destruction, that there is a renaissance. That there is an opportunity, especially for art, to flourish. Do you have that hope of what can come next? And if so, where are you finding your inspiration?
Of course, I have hope. Otherwise, life is not worth living without this ray of light or hope at the end of the tunnel. And I think this is what keeps me going. I am still a very positive person, in spite of everything that's been happening. I'm still positive. I haven't become cynical. I hope I will never be. And I will never lose hope or become, negative or pessimistic, or because this is where you start realizing that you can't do anything about it. I truly believe in the power that we have as human beings to have an impact on our lives and on other people's lives. Anything we do, any action we do can have an impact. So I believe in that, and I want to use it as much as I can positively. I want to turn the frustration or the anger into something positive instead of just saying, why did this happen? You just start wondering, and what if I can change it, and in what way I can change it. There's a saying that I love very much, and I don't remember who said it. It goes like, some people see things the way they are and ask why. Other people see things the way they might be and ask why not. So I believe in that, and I want to be part of the second group of people who who imagine how things can be, and ask why not, and start working on it.
And does that almost philosophy move into your creation of stories, your vision of the films that you want to create? Are you looking to encourage the world and the next generation of filmmakers to start saying, why not?
Absolutely, yes, absolutely. I mean, this is what keeps me going. And whatever story I want to tell, there's always this question whether we can imagine solutions. Of course, we're never going to have the solution to. Sometimes we do, maybe, I don't know, but yes, at least imagining it, imagining a different kind of world, a different kind of system, alternative thinking. I'm a very big fan of alternative thinking and alternative systems, alternative ways of seeing the world and living our lives, and why not? We the way things are going has been proven to be almost uh, failing everywhere. All systems have proved that they are failing, and the pandemic was, I think, a way to understand it. Was the way different government dealt with it showed that actually we didn't know how to react, and the ongoing systems didn't really react. I mean, didn't really, react the right way. So, um, uh, of course, I encourage people to think differently and to imagine things differently and start thinking in alternative, ways.
So, changing direction a little bit, as one woman to another, I know that there are barriers and obstacles that women still face in every field. One of the opportunities I think that you certainly have as a world renowned film director, story writer, storyteller, is to inspire the next generation of women to be the best they can be. How do you go about that, and how much of a responsibility is it?
I've never, while working, I've never thought of myself as a female filmmaker. I'm just a filmmaker. And I do things from a female point of view, of course, because I'm a woman. But I don't think about it intentionally. when I'm working, or I don't think, okay, so I'm doing a film as a woman. This film is going to inspire other women to do the same, or to. I just, for me, of course, it's very important to have um, uh, examples of female filmmakers that, of course, have made it, and it does encourage other female filmmakers to do the same. But for me, it's not that important, and I've never really felt that it was difficult to make a film because of the fact that I'm a woman. I've never really felt that. It's very difficult to make a film anyway, and it's as difficult for a man, because you have to have the right personality. You have to be a fighter. It's always like you're going to war when you're making a film, because it's difficult, especially when you're making films in the Middle East and in Lebanon, when there's no film industry. But I don't want to look at myself as a victim. On the contrary, I've never been a victim. I've never seen myself as a victim, and I think it reflects on other people's reactions. And when you don't deal with it as a victim, people don't treat you as a victim. They don't see that. They don't. And I've never really had any difficulty doing my job. Of course, it's not. You cannot generalize, and you cannot say this does not apply to every woman. It depends where you're coming from. It depends on your situation, your education, where you're coming from, which part of the world, what's happening in your country, what's happening in the community you grew up in, and how you've been brought up, and all of that. So you cannot generalize. You cannot just say, women are like this or like that, or they're going through this. It depends on, where you come from and your personality and all of that. There's so many things that I don't know if I answered the question, but
you did, absolutely. So just taking you back to how you sort of discovered your creative talent, your passion for filmmaking, was that something you were taught, or was that something that was almost just natural to you?
The passion for films and the passion came very early. I was still I was about maybe 12 or 13 years old, and I thought, because back then, of course, we were living through the Lebanese war, and as children, we didn't. We sometimes we used to spend so much time at home. We couldn't go to school. We couldn't play outside. We were in shelters. So we didn't have a normal childhood. And for me, the highlight of my day was actually when because we used to have a power cut all the time. It used to be, almost maybe 18 hours a day without electricity. But then if we have, the rest, like a few hours a day with electricity, the highlight of my day was when I was watching TV, when I was watching films, and when I was escaping through those stories, and understanding, that there's a different reality than the reality I live in. And I was very lucky also, because we used to live right, above a small store that used to rent VHS tapes, films. And we used to rent, of course, the same films over and over again, was the same films. And it just used to lighten up my day the moment that I was watching a film. So I decided very early, this is what I want to do in life. I want to create stories, tell stories that are different from my own reality. I think it's a kind of wanting to live different lives, and wanting to escape also your own personality, who you are, and it allows me to create, so many different, and live so many different lives. I think it's the only place where you're allowed to live different lives. And I think I wanted to do that very early, and I decided this is what I want to do in life. And that's why I also like acting, because even though I'm not a professional, I don't consider myself as an actress. I'm more a filmmaker than an actress. But when I'm acting, it actually also allows me to experiment my other natures and to see who else I can be than myself, and play with that. Because in real life, unfortunately, you are labeled as crazy if you do that. You cannot be a different person every day, or have a different personality every day. Cinema and films are the only place where it's actually allowed and legal for you to be somebody else. So I like to experiment with that.
And give us some insight into who transported you. Where did you go? Which were the VHS films that you watched over and over again?
Greece was one of them. Greece. Greece was one of my favorites, because, it had singing and dancing and colors and life and love and rebellion and all of that, all of those things I wanted to be, maybe. And yeah, I think Greece was my favorite back then. Other films also, like Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Was one of my favorites too, because also there was something very rebellious about Ferris Bueller, because he thinks in an alternative way. Also, he does things differently. He thinks differently, and I used to really like that character a lot. What else? Annie. I don't know if you know the film Annie, the musical, was also another one. Those are the ones I recall the most.
And I'm noticing a theme in terms of ultimate escapism and, spoiler alert, happy endings. A lot of the films that you're talking about that you found and took refuge in when you were growing up are the ultimate happy endings. Is that important to you, that you have almost the closure to a story, that there is an end?
Strangely enough, in all the 3 films I've done, there's always an open ending. There's never a happy or sad end. There's always, in the 3, there's always an end where there's a question that is asked, or there is, we don't know. We don't know whether it's actually a happy ending or not a happy ending. So because this is what life is about also, I like to have this hope. I like to keep that hope going on, and no matter how bad the situation is. Maybe that's why I like to keep that open ending, even if the situation is really, really hard. There's always this little light at the end of the tunnel, and I like to keep that. Maybe it's also in my nature. I like to always have this sort of sparkle that keeps me going, and this is what keeps me, anyway, gives me this strength to wake up in the morning, put on my clothes, brush my teeth, and just, face life. This is what keeps me going, is that, little hope that great things can happen, even in the most difficult situations.
Well, I hope that our conversation doesn't end, that we can demonstrate that we will have a partnership and a friendship that means that we can come back and talk again in the future, because you truly are not just an iconic filmmaker and storyteller, but a true joy to spend time with. And I really appreciate your open conversation with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I enjoyed it too. It made me, it allowed me to escape a little bit the reality of what we're going through here. And thank you again. And I hope maybe I'll see you next year in better circumstances.
I hope so too. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Bye.